Good evening, I'm Graham McGeary, President of Seahorse Victoria. My guest tonight is Peta-Gai McLaughlin, founder and principal of Iridis Cosmetics. Welcome, Peta-Gai.
Thank you.
What is Iridis Cosmetics?
Iridis is my makeup brand that I created, and Iridis is Latin for rainbow. And we do anything and everything makeup related.
Getting to this point, though, obviously you've got to develop skills and desire to be involved in running your own company. So let's go back to some of your beginnings. I understand that you had a bit of a traumatic childhood.
I grew up with an exceptional mother who was a florist, and she ran her own business, and I grew up around her the whole time of my childhood. And but unfortunately, my father ended up being quite a violent and not a great person, all in all. So I grew up in family violence. And it was a pretty awful kind of upbringing, the pretty horrific kind of violence. So much so that we ended up leaving New South Wales, where I was originally born in New South Wales, and we left there when I was about 12 and escaped to Tasmania and started a whole new life down there. And very brave of my mum to do that, to go where, you've got nowhere, you don't know anyone, you're starting from scratch. But that very much was my mum, very resourceful and, found a way.
Don't necessarily have to get into details. How did your mum manage to keep you sort of sentient, I suppose, to the world? As opposed to withdrawing.
It's so true, Greer. I think Mum was the amazing counterbalance to everything that I experienced with my dad. Mum made life safe again, and she made it very fun. We always had a lot of fun and black humour. I have a bit of a warped sense of humour as a result of that childhood, but it gets you through.
It does.
But Mum was always great at creating fun and safety, and growing up in her florist shop was amazing because, you're around flowers. It's so beautiful. She taught me everything I know about business, how to interact with people and how to get yourself out there and be brave, that resourcefulness. So, the horrors of my childhood, I've done a lot of counselling, gotten rid of a lot of that trauma and, stuff holds on, but it has really shaped me into the woman that I am today. And I'm quite proud of that journey too. It was tough, but, some of the best people are forged in the fire, you know what I mean?
Yeah. With that sort of early trauma, moving interstate, having to go to school, make new friends, things like that. How did that work for you?
Oh, it was also traumatizing. I came from New South Wales and I was so different. Everyone in Tassie were all so different to me, Greer. And I know now that that's an absolute superpower, but as a little 12-year-old, when I wasn't like anybody else and I was picked on endlessly for being different, it was really hard. And I always had a really great vocab, always talking, and so they'd say to me, "Oh, have you eaten a dictionary for breakfast? It's too many big words."
Was that the main difference? You're being a talkative person?
Yeah, definitely that. And I was quite switched on. I had big dreams about what I wanted to do in the world, and all my experiences of my parents' divorce, I wanted to be a lawyer because I wanted to go and change the world. I didn't want to have kids affected by the family court. They didn't listen to me. They made me go and see my dad, and horrible stuff happened when I had to go and see him, and they wouldn't listen to me. And I remember being so disenfranchised by it all. And I just thought, this is crap. Why don't they listen to kids? And so I thought, that's it. I'll be a lawyer and I'll just change the world.
Yeah, you mentioned about the big dream. So was that always the big dream, or was that more or less a pragmatic dream?
Yeah, that's right. It was a bit of a pragmatic dream. My original big dream, I was going to be a superstar actress, actually. That was always, I remember being 5 and my mum took me to my first ever play, and it just enthralled me. And I just sat there and didn't talk for the whole 2 hours. And mum was like, is she dead? Like, what's going on? And she's like looking at me, you know, you all right? I'm like, oh my God, that was amazing. And that was it. I said, I want to do that. And Mum's like, you want to be an actress? I'm like, yes, give me a stage. And so that was really the first big dream. And then when I got to be about 13 or so, 14, you know, I started to show that I had a little bit of, you know, smarts. And then it was Mum saying, you know what, you should be a lawyer because it's just like being an actress. You know, you got to perform for the judge and jury. And yeah, it was like, okay, I can tell you now that is not what law is actually like.
Being at school and having that dream of being an actress, were you involved in school plays?
Oh,
and
yeah,
things?
God, any chance I got, anytime there was any opportunity to do public speaking, I was a prefect. I was like straight up going, oh, look, let me do the speech for that. You've got an end of year formal, I'll be the MC. Oh, yeah, I was terrible. It was always me. Loved it. Loved an audience.
So you end up do go and study law.
Yeah.
So what was that like, actually having to study law?
Oh God, look, I got sort of I'm almost diagnosed ADHD. I'm like technically undiagnosed, but there's no doubt I've got it. I do not know how the hell I did a law degree, quite honestly, Greer. You know, I don't know how I got through those 5 years, but it was an amazing grounding in, you know, how to think. You know, like that's what a law degree really does, is teaches you how to think like a lawyer, and that's been amazing for me in business and throughout my whole life. Like I loved my time studying law. You know, it's hard going. Definitely, I don't know how I got the focus on to get anything done, but I did.
What sort of law did you focus?
Oh well, I was totally going to be doing family law, until I actually did legal practice in family law for like my fourth year it was. And oh my God, I was like, you know what, I'm going to suck at this because I am overly emotional and I like feel things very deeply. It is one of my superpowers, but it doesn't work well when you're a lawyer. So I knew that I couldn't do family law because I would just be too emotionally involved. I'd kind of suck at it. And so I thought, okay, I'll go into corporate law. I ended up being a superannuation lawyer, which meant I got to call myself a super lawyer, not just a regular lawyer. I was a super lawyer. So financial services was the specialisation.
So that obviously gives you, you know, skills and things like that. Clearly then acting was off the cards for the time being.
It was. Yeah. But any chance I got, I would do presentations at work about training people in super, or, you know, I'd you know, like the budget would be released and I worked for an organisation that would be, you know, an industry body. And so we would be the first to know about what was happening in the budget. And then I'd read all about it and then create the training materials and then go and deliver the training. Again, opportunity to get on stage, you know how it is. So yeah, every opportunity I had, I would train people in things, anything that, you know, was interesting. Super.
How long did you do that for?
It was 17 long years. Career, 17 years I worked as a lawyer. It almost just feels like another whole lifetime now. You know, it's just so bizarre to think about it.
So in that 17 years, did you have any opportunity to sort of do maybe amateur theatre or something like that?
Well, I did, but career was always so, you know, full on. Like, you know, working as a lawyer was pretty intense. You know, I'd gotten married during that time to my first husband. Well, my only husband, my first marriage. And so it's, you know, I sort of, it was kind of, you know, amateur theatre was always something that I loved the idea of, but it was really cute because once I sort of went into the whole makeup side of things, I could work as a makeup artist in a lot of theatre stuff. So I got quite exposed to, you know, seeing, you know, the stage and backstage and all of that sort of stuff. It was wonderful.
What got you into then from being a lawyer and wanting to be an actor to being makeup?
Isn't it hilarious? I know it's such a weird story. So actually makeup came first. So at uni, it was my uni job. I worked at the Body Shop in Hobart. Right. And I actually, the other day, I found my rejection letter from them, which is hilarious. I was like, oh, my first makeup rejection. But obviously they still employed me for Christmas. So Christmas casual came around and I started as a little Christmas casual. And it was amazing. You know, I would go in, people would come in for that, you know, the hand cream or the hemp hand cream or the dewberry body wash. This is 1994. And essentially I'd say, oh, look here, here's the hand cream. This is the body wash, blah, blah. But while you're here, let me put some lippy on you. So I'd always sit them in the makeup chair and make them over. And everyone had the same look. It was like the dark brown lip liner with the pink lipstick, because of course that was very on trend. And I just sold that product. They could not keep it in stock. It was like, everyone's like, wow, this lipstick's just going off the shelves, because I was there selling it. So they realized that I had an affinity with makeup. And so they actually trained me, and I got trained by one of the first celebrity makeup artists, Chase Aston. He was like London, came over from England, all the thing, was so fancy. And so 90s makeup was my thing. And I started doing formals and weddings. So here I am as a little 19-year-old doing someone's wedding makeup.
So when you became a lawyer, that became your sort of part-time job.
It was. And so I was doing it as a bit of a side hustle / hobby. This is sort of where Iridis all came about, actually. Why the makeup brand came about was because women, and lawyers especially, would come to me and say, look, you seem to know what you've got going on with the makeup. Look, I need to buy a red lipstick. What would you recommend? Or, I'm in the market for a new foundation. I'd be like, oh, well, go check out MAC or go check out Clinique. So I'd just go shopping with people and help them buy their makeup. And then eventually there was a lawyer at the law firm that I worked for who said to me, oh, look, I really need some help with this. Like, I'm a mum. I've just had 2 kids. I've had a massive break from employment. I'm going to make partner this year, but I know I need to up level. And I remember saying to her, oh, look, I can teach you how to do your makeup, and I'll send you to my hairdresser, and we need a new suit, and your heels need an update. Like, I was up on all of that stuff. It was, that was my funds. I loved it so much. So I took her shopping, did a whole makeover, taught her how to do her makeup in the toilets, and it was like, we got sprung so many times. It was hilarious. Everyone's like, what's going on in here? I'm like, oh, just a makeup lesson. And then that was it, this love of that. So that was 2000, in 2000, and I knew there was a business idea in that. I knew that women needed help with their makeup, and they didn't know what they didn't know. And that's where I came in. I was like, you know what, I absolutely could do this for a living.
Where did you do your law degree?
That was Tassie.
Tassie.
So I did all of my high school and uni in Tassie. And then so I graduated that in 1998 and then left Tassie and came to Melbourne with my then fiancé. And we set up life in Melbourne.
And you're based here ever since?
Yeah. I can't believe that I've been here so long. But Melbourne's so home. I just love it.
I never grew up here. Sort of southern New South Wales and then Ballarat and then to Melbourne.
Yes.
And
You're a country girl.
And then through work, lived from Darwin, Catherine and Mildura. So I've lived around Australia, but Melbourne has always seemed like home.
It's for me too. I just can't see myself living anywhere else. I just love it.
Having now established yourself, moved here, got a career, you end up deciding you're going to turn your fiancé into a husband.
Todd and I, we were both lawyers together. In superannuation, we were both super lawyers. And we built an amazing career together, side by side. We worked occasionally together a couple of times, but mainly, he'd work in a different space. It was that whole, in your 20s where you're just doing all the career stuff, and it was a good time, actually. I look back on that and was just think, God, before kids and all the things, you could just do whatever the hell you wanted. It was awesome.
You obviously didn't have any kids at that point.
No, Todd and I didn't have any children.
Relationships do change in that when you move on.
They do.
You move on. So what sort of happened after that?
Well, I was working at a super fund, and I shared an office with a girl, and my boss at the time said to me, now look, it's really important that you get on well with the investment team, and she was in the investment team. And I was like, oh, don't worry, everybody loves me. It'll be fine. I'll get on well with everyone. And, in hindsight, apparently I was Peta-Gai on steroids, trying to make her like me. And she just thought there was something really weird about me because I talked so much. And she was just like, okay, God, I have to share an office with this girl. But in the end, I did win her over, and we ended up falling in love, actually. It was this big drama in superannuation. And Todd and I had sort of come to the end of our marriage. It was about 14 years we'd been together. This big scandal of me falling in love with a woman, Greer. It was massive news.
Did you ever have a sense that you might be bi?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. That was in Tassie. I was about 13 or 14. And when I realised that I was actually bisexual because I had all these crushes on my teachers. And all of a sudden it was sort of like, but she's a girl. What's going on? But I really liked the IT teacher too. He was a boy. I was like, and it was so confusing for me. Like I just didn't sort of realise. But there's a really cute story about that because my mum was the secretary of the local ALP branch in Tasmania, and it was all at the time that they were lobbying for the decriminalisation of homosexuality. And I mean, like, just to even think that in my lifetime that it was actually literally illegal to be gay in Tasmania.
Well, I was, through circumstance, we were living in Tassie in 2000.
Oh,
2001.
my God, were you?
Initially at Penguin.
Penguin? Oh, my God, how cute a name is that? That's so Tasmanian.
Yes, but it was also, at the time, a lot of interstate gay people were moving into Penguin.
Totally. Yeah, there were so many gay people, but in hindsight now, I look at that and I think they'd always say, oh, this is my cousin or this is my brother or, it's a great aunt that I'm living with. And it's just, I mean, it's so sad that, that they could never be out. And I mean, that was the thing. I didn't know that bisexuality was even possible because I didn't see anyone like that in Tassie. There were barely lesbians that, I could see, and also I wasn't like all the others. I was really girly and femme. So like a lot of any lesbians that I knew were of the more butch kind of variety. And like, I didn't resonate with that. And I was like, well, I'm not like that. I'm more girly. So I never knew where I really fit into the whole thing. But when the whole decriminalisation and the lobbying was going on, all of Rodney who's an amazing man, awesome dude. He was going around Tasmania with all of the whole, trying to lobby all of the ALPs to get them to vote the other way for decriminalisation of homosexuality. And so they came and spoke, and I was enthralled by the whole thing because social justice has been a massive part of my life. My mum raised me to always, stand up for the underdog and, make sure you use your voice if others can't and all that sort of stuff. And so learnt about the fact that there was this thing as lesbianism and bisexuality, and I was just like, oh, maybe this is me. And then my mum, being my amazing mum, sat me down and said, now look, have you got any questions about lesbians or gays? Is there, there's a lot of information that's come out tonight that, you might not have heard about before. So if you've got questions, let me know. I'm like, yes, I've got one question actually. And she's like, okay, great. And I could see the look on her face. Like she was like, what is Peta-Gai going to ask me? And I'm like, okay, so mum, I've got a question. When you've got one lesbian who's wearing a red lipstick, and then you've got the other lesbian who's wearing like a light pink lip gloss, how do they kiss? Because obviously it's going to mess up their makeup. And my mum's just looking at me like, that's your question. and I'm like, yeah, so what happens? And she's like, you know what? I think they just kind of work it out. And I'm like, yes, they would just work it out. They'd work it out. This is my great big worry about kissing girls, is messing up my lipstick. So hilarious. So that was when I realised, I was actually, there was that in me. And I always was a theoretical bisexual because, I was with Todd, I was with a man. So at that point it was, a total theoretical concept until I fell in love with my colleague at work.
What point did you decide, now that you're sort of having your weekend makeup and stuff like that, to actually commit yourself to developing a business?
Well, it was actually the global financial crisis that happened, and I was out of work as a lawyer for 6 months, which was extraordinary at that time. I'd never been out of work my whole career, 10 years at that point. And there was just nothing around. The whole financial services industry was decimated. And so I would sit at home and apply for jobs and not get anything. And, I even tried to go in insurance for a while. I was like, that's how bad it got. I didn't, thankfully. But I sat down and I looked at all of my skills, and I had a big piece of butcher's paper, and I was like, right, I'm good at all of this. What do I like doing? And so training people was one of those things, and makeup, obviously. And then, I had sort of had dreams of, wanting to change the world, whether it was, I always thought it was going to be super that I would change the world in. I don't know exactly how you would do that, but I don't know. I was ready to do anything as long as I could change the world. And then I was like, well, what fitted? So, what career could I do with makeup, teaching, and, talking to people? That was basically, I was really good with people. So what could I build? And so I thought, what? Why don't I just teach women makeup? I could change how they viewed themselves. And so with my ex-wife, now sadly we've just parted ways a year ago, and but with her, I created the makeup brand, and that's where Iridis was created.
Just primary focus is I'm going to teach any woman.
Yep.
The basis of makeup.
Yep.
Were you using, I imagine initially using other companies' products?
Correct, exactly.
Did you develop any of your own product in the end?
I did, and it was the best thing ever. Like that was a really cool moment for us. Like I always knew I wanted to teach women makeup. That lawyer, she's the woman I set the brand up for, my whole business is around her. And I still see women like her every day coming in, who've just gotten to a point where they have given up on makeup. Maybe their face has changed, or maybe they just feel overwhelmed by where to buy it and what to do. And I thought, I could just make this simple for people. I can make that easy. So teaching women how to do the makeup was that first step, but then having our own makeup brand was that next logical part to it all.
So you're working with an individual. You mentioned about liking to do training and things like that. So, and going back to earlier comments about loving to do presentations.
Totally.
So you develop videos, do you, or PowerPoints?
Well, it was all during face-to-face lessons. That was where our real magic was. That was in the actual teaching of it. So I always do one side of the face and then show the techniques and which products and colour match and all of that. And then the woman will do the other side of her face. And so then I can adjust techniques. During COVID, we did some of these on Zoom, and they were fun too. There were just, oh my God, so many trans babies coming out during COVID. We did so many Zoom lessons with trans girls. It was amazing. It was just such a special thing to be able to teach women hands-on how to do their own makeup. So we steered away from the video side of things because I wanted it to be a more personal experience. And like my generation of, 40s, 50s, it's all very hands-on. It's kinesthetic learning. You can watch YouTube till the cows come home, but it doesn't make sense, right?
I've always been a person of face-to-face,
Me too.
Like I know with Seahorse, for instance, we don't do much online because it's about people wanting to, the only way you can be open to other people is face-to-face.
And the connection, right? It's all about connection. And that's for me too. It's one of the things I love most about what I do with my makeup work is that connection, hearing people's stories, understanding where they've come from. It's amazing. Yeah.
You touched upon the trans, and of course one of the general themes of a lot of the conversations I have is about inclusion. So what was the point that trans people started coming in to seek your services?
Oh, great. I love this story. Beautiful Belinda. So my first ever trans client, Belinda, she messaged me. It was a referral from another makeup artist and had said, Peta-Gai has this gay company. You need to go and talk to her. She'll look after you. So this trans woman comes and talks to me and is saying, look, my first public outing as Belinda is imminent. I am bridesmaid in my best friend's wedding and I'm wearing a dress for the first time in my life and I need my makeup done. I'm like, well, God, let me help. And she was so clear, like Belinda's like, now I don't want to look like a drag queen. I do not want to look overdone. I don't want an inch of glitter on my face. I don't want overdrawn lips. I just want to look like a pretty girl. I'm like, yep, got it. This is fab. Let's do it. I'd never done any trans makeup before, but I knew I could do it. And, supremely confident. And it was the most extraordinary experience that I'd had in Iridis. And, I love a good makeover because, it's all about the transformation, right? Enhancing the beauty that's there, making something that's already beautiful more beautiful. Like, what's better than that, right? But boy, a trans woman makeover, now that is, magic. And the whole experience was just extraordinary. And Belinda was a sweet and gorgeous and kind woman. She shared with me a whole bunch of stuff about what was okay to say and what wasn't okay to say. And I had a lot of questions. I'm a very open person and I love talking to people about stuff. And so, I was like, can I ask this? And she's like, yes, you can ask that, but not like this. I'm like, great, okay. And it was an incredible education.
And that's what I talk about inclusion for a lot is being able to just present yourself. This is me, however you might perceive me to be. Yep. But we go from there.
So true.
So to sort of maybe round out a bit of an idea, I understand that you now have a child.
Oh, I do. So my ex-wife and I had this amazing, awesome, joyous experience of bringing a child into the world. Tristan is his name and he's nearly 6. And look, I tell you what, it's the hardest job in the world, this parenthood thing. But he's pretty lucky. He's got 2 mums, so he's fine. It was really wonderful. Kelly ended up carrying Tristan, but it was my egg that we used, and we had anonymous sperm donor that we used to also make him possible, and I'm so incredibly grateful to that person. Like, what an amazing gift to give us. And Tristan is this little bright spark of joy in the world. He's a wonderful human being.
That implies that you're getting on well with your ex.
Yes, thank goodness. Yeah, look, it was an amicable breakup. We 17 years. We'd reached the end of the journey, but we are co-parenting and, looking after Tristan together, 50-50, sharing him and raising this wonderful human being.
The idea of how you cope with the world and the joy that you can bring into it. So you've gone from a traumatic childhood to using that experience to have your pragmatic dream.
Totally. And it was a good dream. Like, I loved being a lawyer. It was a good 17 years, but I'm glad it's done.
Yeah. But it seems to be driven more out of pragmatism.
It was.
Rather than necessarily the idealistic.
I think it was really my mum's dream. I think, she really wanted to be a lawyer and didn't get that opportunity. Education was hard in the 50s. So, she led me down that path. And I'm glad because, it has served me really well in business. It's given me a lot of great skills that I've used.
And then you move into your own business and you've had a couple of, more than a couple now, 3 partners.
Yes.
So that you've had an interesting love life, as it were. But
I so have, and it's even getting more exciting and amazing because I'm now with a trans woman, and it's it's a bit of a natural, logical conclusion. Managed to fall in love with my studio manager at Iridis. Is Vanessa, my gorgeous trans. Gorgeous girlfriend. It's so exciting to be able to it's new and fun and fabulous, so life's good, Greer.
Well, that's really the important thing. Life is good.
Yeah,
and
life is good.
It's a wonderful way to thank you for joining us in the conversation today.
And you know what? It's all about how you frame it, right? We all go through the hard stuff. It is actually, this is the journey, right? But it's how you reframe it. It's how you move on from it. It's the lessons that you learn from it. And it's the difference that you make in the world as a result of those horrible experiences. And, that I think is the biggest lesson that I've learned. And so spread the joy where you can, have fun, teach women how to step into their gorgeous feminine selves and love who they are.
Thank you very much for joining
Thank
me
you
today.
for having me. It's been a joy.
I'm Greer McGeary, and my wonderful guest has been Peta-Gai McLaughlin, who you've just seen to be a very joyous person. Thank you for watching Ben TV.